Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Gurs, and Purrs. My name's Leslie, and today we're going to be discussing James Baldwin's The Evidence of Things Not Seen. This is an investigative piece. James Baldwin was commissioned around the time between 1979 and 1981 to create an investigative piece because over a 22-month period, nearly 24 children were being murdered in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's one of those infamous cases to this very day where people still question how it was handled, who was found guilty of the crimes. And so what James Baldwin does is he explores the history of Atlanta, Georgia, the places where the crimes took place, the framing of Atlanta, Georgia itself. Something that the author explores is how there was how can I say it, like a PR slogan around Atlanta, Georgia, which was hate doesn't live there. And so then being confronted with this terrible crimes, the black administration had to really be confronted with all the publicity around what happened, and how the pressure to have someone found to be guilty of the crimes led to some very quick decisions. The FBI got involved, and what James Baldwin sees as a courtroom that functioned very much like a circus is how he put it in the book. He'll discuss like colorism, institutional racism, and yeah, it was definitely a hard read. I'm glad I read it. I am familiar with the murders that took place in Atlanta, but on a very surface level. I really don't know all the details, and on top of that, I think there's some sort of fictional crime show that's on Netflix, and one of the seasons focuses on what happened in Atlanta, Georgia, and that was the first time that I got a little more details. But again, it's a piece of fiction exploring what happened, so that's not going to be everything. And so I appreciated the perspective that James Baldwin brings, because he has just such a strong sense of voice, and his preferred, I guess, I don't know if it's preferred, but his essay writing is incredibly strong, and I feel like he brings that even to his fictional work. And so yeah, I really love this book. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should bring up. There's also the mothers. I'm trying to think of what they were. There's a group, and I don't want to mess up their name. Oh yeah, James Baldwin brings up Camille Bell, who was the head of Stop the Murders Mothers Committee. And so all these different like elements come into play. The way James Baldwin includes the history of the environment of Atlanta, Georgia, reminded me of Michelle McNamara's book, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, and how when she wrote that crime novel, it was important for her to not just talk about the murders, but about the victim's life, the people left behind, and the architecture, the development of the places where the murders took place. And then I found that reminiscent of James Baldwin work in this essay. He does something very similar that is just so important to the telling of the story. You know, you can't really just talk about the murders without like pulling back the lens and discussing what's going on, right, in the environment. And I just think that he did that really beautifully. Once again, everything he writes is so impactful. And yeah, I really liked it. I don't really have too much to say about this because it's actually a very short essay. There is a foreword, and it's with Stacey Abrams, and she talks about how the investigative piece that James Baldwin wrote echoes what happened to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and how it's just, I guess, unfortunately continues to be relevant as these type of, I don't know, like judicial issues persist. And so I appreciated that. And actually, right before the actual essay starts, there's this quote by James Baldwin I really enjoyed. And it's part of the foreword, or I should say, no, it's a preface. And James Baldwin wrote, "History, I contend, is the present. We, with every breath we take, every move we make, are history, and what goes around comes around." And I love that quote. I think that's probably my favorite one. And one other one that I wanted to share is on page 82, the author writes, "This civilization has proven itself capable of destroying peoples rather than hear them, destroying continents rather than share them, and are capable for the same reason of destroying all life on this planet." And so yeah, so I absolutely love this piece. I'm gonna have just a couple of things to say, like on a spoilery level, if you could say this. I know this is something that happened, true crime, I guess you could say. But if you haven't read this, I'm just gonna kind of say a couple of spoilery things. So if you don't want to hear it, just go pick up a copy because it's worth reading. Okay, what did I want to explore? Well, there's a mention of a documentary that I want to see now. I've never heard of it, and it's by Abby Mann, and it talks about the role of the white cop as a necessary American invention. And so I'm gonna watch that at some point. And then the author goes on to talk about the judge, Clarence Cooper, who's a black man. But what I took away from what James Baldwin was saying was that, I'm summarizing it, so I'm not saying it in his exact words, but he was giving me the impression that he's trying to say that this person was groomed by other white people in power. And so that's a lot going on there. If you read more, you'll kind of see how he's trying to make all these connections to how the issues were handled. Oh, and something there's so much I didn't know, but what I didn't know was that Wayne Williams, the person that was convicted, was tried for 2 murders of 2 grown men. But what everyone was getting, for lack of better words, hysterical about was that nearly 24 children were murdered. And so even though Wayne Williams was tried for 2 murders, the actual trial was trying to put everything on him, not just the murder of 2 men, but of the children as well. And so there was this circus-like quality to the trial that took place. And when he was convicted, there was such a mixed reaction because no one was actually tried for the murders of the children. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that no one's actually been tried for the murders of the children. And there's so many things that could have happened. Like the assumption that just one person committed the crime. There's also a framing of the prosecution stating that there was a pattern with the murders, but that's something that James Baldwin pokes holes in his essay with that I really appreciated, and it's just, I don't know, it's a lot. It's a very heavy to kind of take that in, that there are mothers that got together to organize together, and yet no one was tried for their kids dying. It's a lot. The author also goes on to talk about how whistleblowers do not reap the benefits of what they're whistleblowing about, and it's others around them that actually profit off of whatever nefarious crimes are going on. And so I found that really sad and profound at the same time. And lastly, just how important the image of Atlanta took precedent over everything else that was going on. Yeah, so I love this essay. It's just, it's a really heavy material. And I wish that this particular essay was gain more notoriety, because I didn't know about this essay until I saw someone creating a review about it recently, but beyond that I never heard about that before. And so yeah, I appreciate it. I loved it. Pick it up. I don't have a lot to say about this. It's just one of those essays you have to pick up yourself and read. But as you can see, I have like, can you? There's like plenty of little sticky notes. And so yeah. It's still rainy, so I'm a little bit sleepy. I hope what I said was somewhat coherent. And I guess I'll see you later.